Hello, welcome to another video. Today we're in the Catalan capital of Barcelona. As you can see, we're in the Plaza de Catalunya, which is heaving with people and probably very noisy. And we're going to take a journey on L7 of the metro from here up to Mount Tibidabo, one of the best viewing points in Barcelona. So let's get on with it. So the first job on this gloriously sunny January day in Barcelona is to locate the entrance to the brown line of the metro, or L7 as it's also known. If you happen to be a fan of pigeons, I think it's known as a pigeon fancier, make sure you get your binoculars out now, because there's plenty to see. It's also worth pointing out that if you want to use the blue aerobus, you can see them at the top of the screen there. To get to the airport, this is the place to pick them up. There's actually a lot of cool stuff in this central area of Barcelona, but not to worry, this will be coming up in some of the other vlogs from Barcelona. Let's head down into Plaza de Catalunya station. As you can see from the different colour boxes, there are plenty of metro lines and also train lines, the Renfe, running from here as well. It's actually quite tricky to find the brown line. It's not directly in this part. You have to go through quite a few different corridors and gates to get there. It's probably actually not the best entrance. And as always in these metro vlogs, you're going to need a ticket. I'm using the T-Casual in the top right of the screen. That's €11.35 for 10 individual journeys. But there's also day tickets that you can see here. The 2-day, which works out at about €8, just over €8 per day. 3 days, which is slightly cheaper. 4 days, again, slightly cheaper, but they both work out around €7 or €8 still. And then finally the 5-day, which is slightly the cheaper one, but for me I think the 10 journey ticket is going to work out better for this particular trip or the next couple of vlogs. Now we're going to go on a little trek to try and find the brown line past the Renfe and also past a couple of the other subway lines. It's line 1, as you can see there on the right, and we are heading towards the brown line L7. I think there must be a closer entrance to this. In fact, I'm fairly sure there is. Somebody was too busy filming the vlog intro and walking around Plaza de Catalunya and wasn't really concentrating on which entrance they went into. Oops. But eventually, after a little bit of a trek, trust me, there's a much bigger trek coming up further on, we managed to make it to the brown line. L7 is one of Barcelona's shorter metro lines at only 7 kilometers of track length, and the journey time from here in Plaza Catalunya to Avenida Tibidabo at the top of this line is only around 9 minutes. So without further ado, let's jump on board and get this journey started. The first station that we're going to get off at is Gracia. Let's go out and take a look around. It is worth noting that with the T-Casual card that I'm using, you need to keep it in good condition because you have to put it through the barriers to get out on the brown line. Some of the lines you don't, but even to go in, you're going to need to keep it in good condition, otherwise it won't be read by the machines. Got off the metro a couple of stops further down the line at Gracia, which is still very central but a little bit more residential. Let's take a look around this area and see what there is to see and head in the general direction of Tibidabo before we get back on the metro. This was a pretty nice area to walk around. There were people playing table tennis in the streets, cool little markets, Catalan flags hanging off balconies, just a nice atmosphere overall. Other than, of course, this sign, which was a little bit worrying, but anyway, we're going to ignore that and move on. Here we're taking a very quick walk through all of the construction to the next station on the line, Plaza Molina, so it's a fairly short walk from Gracia to this next station. So we're going to go back to the brown line and head towards Avenida Tibidabo. And as if by magic, we've gone from Plaza Molina to the final station on the line, Avenida Tibidabo. Unfortunately, the footage between these two stations was very messy, so I haven't included it, but there's a lot more to come. So heading up this big staircase, let's go and see what's outside this final station. So here we are at John F. Kennedy Square. I'm not exactly sure why this particular square has this particular name, but if anybody does know, please let us all know in the comments. I guess it's just a general memorial to John F. Kennedy, but maybe there's some other reason as well, I'm not sure. Just across from the square is Jardin de la Tamarita, so let's go and take a look around this. Also, if I am butchering any Spanish or Catalan pronunciations throughout these vlogs in Barcelona, feel free to let me know. Well, in fact, actually don't let me know in the comments, just write something nice instead, it's better. So these gardens were definitely nice to walk around. There was quite a few people, quite a lot of kids in there as well, but it did provide a fair bit of tranquility right in the middle of the city. So we're now up right at the top of the line in Jardin de la Tamarita. This is a really upmarket neighborhood by the looks of it, and we're getting towards Mount Tibidabo. In normal times, there is a blue tram and also a funicular to get up to the top, but because it's January, those are not running, which means I have the choice. Do I try and trek it all the way up, or do I attempt to get a bus? I think there's a bus to the funicular, so we may come out of the gardens and look for that, see if there's a quicker way to the top. So as you've probably already guessed, we're going to go and find the bus. It's actually really nice to find somewhere that's relatively peaceful without people around to film, because it's still slightly awkward to film around a lot of people. And also it's just too noisy. Obviously Barcelona being the second most populous city in Spain and a huge tourist destination, it's just rammed with people around the centre. And also the reports are saying there's about 300 robberies a day, like mainly petty pickpocketing type things, but mostly against tourists. And if you look like an obvious tourist wielding your camera or your phone, taking YouTube videos around Plaza de Catalunya and other such places, then you're kind of asking for trouble. The great thing about these tickets in Barcelona, as you can see at the bottom, is it is integrated across different modes of transport. So we can now go from the metro to the bus. You have to make the transfer within a certain time, but as long as it's, I think, less than half an hour, maybe even more than that, you can get on the bus. The bus stop looks as though it's right next to the station, but it's actually slightly up to the right. The bus just drove past me and I had to run up with the camera to actually get on the bus with a new driver. So we're on the absolutely deserted bus towards the funicular. The driver made a point of saying the funicular is closed, so that's probably why nobody's getting on the bus. I asked if it's possible to walk and he was like, so we'll see if we can get there or not. In hindsight, I'm really glad I caught this bus. It takes about 5 minutes and it goes up a little bit of the hill, but compared to how much I'm going to have to walk after this bus, it is well and truly worth it. As far as I can gather, in high season there's a blue tram that follows this same route up to the funicular, which would in high season be open. I'm assuming these are the tram tracks of the aforementioned blue tram. So this is where the bus drops you off. Again, pretty deserted other than a barking dog in the background. You can see everything is pretty much closed, but it looks as though the funicular track goes up this way. Let's take a look at some of the views from here and then attempt to potentially walk some of these tracks higher up, because there is an amusement park at the top of Mount Tibidabo, but that is apparently open even though a lot of the transport is closed. So presumably the best views are from up there. So let's see if we can do it. At this point I was just following some basic looking maps on my phone, so it seemed the most obvious route just to follow up beside the funicular track for now. However, this journey did turn out to be a lot more complex and strenuous than it may look at this point just following the funicular track. There are a fair few choices of, do I take a really steep staircase and take a bit of a shortcut, or do I follow the road which is a little bit longer but you can follow it on the map? But already we're getting really good views of Barcelona and some potential thumbnails. So it's quite a trek so far, but the views are already spectacular. Looking down over Barcelona, you can see the Sagrada Familia and everything else. I actually got talking to a couple of British people on the way up who are all so tired doing this walk, but it looks as though it's going to be worth it at the moment. I think you can follow the roads on the maps to get up to, there's an observatory and also the amusement park at the top. So we're going to try and reach there and see if the views are even more spectacular from the top. Also at this point, while I'm trekking the hill, I just want to say thanks for everybody that's liked and subscribed on the videos so far. It's really helpful. It's really nice to actually see the subscribers go up a little bit. And whenever you see a like on a video as well, it's also really nice. So if anybody else wants to help a very small, itty bitty little YouTube channel, please like, comment, subscribe. All of those metrics really help the videos to get seen and mean that I don't just trek up these hills alone for no viewers. So sad. All right, we're gonna continue up the hill. It's certainly at this point where you see the funicular track still going, you can kind of clock it there behind me, where you really appreciate after 20-25 minutes of walking up steps and uphill that the funicular actually still goes past even here, and how much easier and quicker that would have been. So yeah, if you want a nice cool walking exercise, come here in January. If you want to be lazy, like I kind of want to now, and take the funicular all the way up, it's apparently open on weekends from February and then every day after March until, I presume, around October. I think it's just the winter months where it's closed. But here we're coming to a little bridge where you can see depressingly how far the funicular track goes. Kill me now or don't. Taking a little break from the climb to assess my life choices and also to take potential thumbnails for the video. If you've already clicked on the thumbnail, you realise it's not even this, but I've left it in anyway. You're welcome. The only thing that really made me feel better about walking up the hill was watching people cycle up the hill, because that looked like an absolute nightmare, but I could see why on the way down things were much faster for them.
So it looks as though we're finally coming towards the top. This is not for the faint-hearted, and definitely wish I bought a bottle of water before coming up here. The funicular in high season would be much easier. This is easily 45-50 minutes. I've taken a couple of breaks to sit down and take pictures as well, but definitely be well prepared if you're going to climb this on foot. It takes a while and it's pretty much relentless uphill, but it looks as though we're almost at the top. Woohoo!
Although we're almost at the top, we're not quite there yet. You can see the side of part of the theme park, and also a very well located hotel if you're somebody that likes to stay at the top of a massive hill.
Okay, I keep thinking we're close to the top and I keep saying we're near the top. I think finally we almost are at the top. It looks as though the Sacred Heart of Jesus Church is just over there. So we're going to try and take a look at that, particularly from the outside, but potentially from the inside if we can get in it. And then I think we might be able to see a little bit more of the theme park. It looks closed. And then we'll see what the views are like back over the city right from the top. So let's go up to the church now.
The good news is we've eventually made it right to the top. The church is open and the views are spectacular. Let's take a look around. The church was built between 1902 and 1961 and was constructed in two separate phases. You'll notice the different colours of each of the sections. The church was originally designed by Eric Sagnier and eventually completed by his son, Josep Maria Sagnier, years later. This stunning Byzantine crypt in the bottom section was built between 1902 and 1911 using stone from Montjuic. Absolutely amazing to see this in person. It still looks good on video, but you need to come and see this. It's fantastic. And the views back out over Barcelona from this height are just as spectacular as inside the church. After taking in some of the spectacular views, I obviously needed to still try and get a good thumbnail right from the top. If you have clicked on this video, you'll know that it is currently the thumbnail, unless I've ended up changing it. And it's really windy at the top, so it's very difficult to take any good pictures or video footage.
Okay, so we finally reached the highest point. You can see how windy it is now, my windswept hair. There's no further going uphill, I hope. And it looks as though there's also two levels to the church. So there was already that beautiful part inside that we've just seen, but there's a staircase that goes up the side of the church. Don't know if you can see it there, and also the other side where you can get a view over the theme park, which looks to be closed. It looks as though it's having renovation works, but beautiful views from up here. And then also there's another level of the church behind me there. So let's go and have a look inside this one and see how it compares to the downstairs part.
The neo-Gothic main church was built between 1915 and 1961 using a lighter coloured stone from Girona. Another stunning piece of architecture and amazing construction feat. Look at the height and shape on the roof. It must have taken so many hours to manage to do this amount of detail. I personally prefer the downstairs section just because of the colours and the sort of more intimate feel to it, but let me know in the comments which section you preferred, the downstairs part or the newer part. It's a little bit of a shame that the amusement park wasn't open, but it was still fun to get to see it close up. And at this point I decided to head back down towards the hill. Casual helicopter in somebody's garden there.
Okay, so now I'm going to retrace my steps back down the hill, back down the bus, hopefully it's still running, back onto line 7, into the city centre and get some food and definitely get a drink. That's where we're going to leave the video for today. So if you enjoyed it, remember to like and subscribe. It really helps a small channel. Leave some comments if you like, give me some interaction. It's always fun to reply to some of those, particularly if they're nice. And I'll see you in the next video. There's going to be a few more from Barcelona and also other cities and countries as well, so make sure you subscribe and I'll see you in the next one.